Even though Geoffrey can't start working at Olstead yet, the Fat Controller put him to use by sending him to Thomas's branch line to collect rubbish and scrap. The workmen were almost done on the upgrade and were working on the line that leads up to the quarry in Olstead. Rubbish and scrap were being loaded into the trucks ready for Geoffrey to take to the junction, where Neville then takes him to Crocks Scrap Yard on Edward's branch line. Jack loves this kind of work. He thought it was fun scooping up the scrap and dropping it into trucks as they make a mighty crash. Boom! laughed Jack. You should be careful, Jack. You might hurt someone doing that, said Oliver firmly. But it's fun, he replied, and he raced away to collect more. Just then, Geoffrey arrived. Oh, it's our new engine of the Earl's. Jack, let's greet him. But Jack ignored Oliver as he collected more scrap. G'day, my name's Geoffrey. I'm to help with the scrap today. Very nice to meet you. I'm Oliver, and this is... Oh, hello! Jack honked as he raced towards Oliver and Geoffrey with a bucket load of scrap. He stopped abruptly, and as soon as he did, his load spilled everywhere, and some landed right near Geoffrey's wheels. Oh, that was loud, chuckled Jack. Oh, Jack, Oliver sighed. Sorry, Oliver, I didn't know you were meeting the new engine. It's all right, Jack. Accidents do happen. But next time, please pay attention. You've got to remember what you're doing. Oliver then collected the scrap and placed them into one of the trucks. That's the last lot, called Oliver. Now we'll have to wait for more trucks from Bear. Jack, please sort out the scrap. So Jack did. Is Jack always like this? Sometimes. He is well-meaning and would do anything for his friends. But Jack, well, he can be a bit rambunctious at times. I see. Geoffrey hoped that his temperament wouldn't get the better of him when it came to Jack. Oh, that sounds even louder than the load I had before. I'll see if I could do an even bigger one. That was okay, but I'm sure I could do better than that. I'll have to throw it extra hard to make it my loudest one yet. Each time Jack threw in another load of scrap, the banging and clanging was more than Geoffrey could bear. But he knew he had to keep his temper in check. Must hold it back, he said to himself, and then breathed in and out calmly. But just as he was doing that, he felt something hard on his tender. Ouch! Geoffrey exclaimed. Oops. Sorry, Jack said, and he raced away to collect more scrap for the trucks. Oh, hope he gives it a rest soon, Geoffrey groaned. But he was wrong. Later on in the day, Jack tried to make the loudest noise he could with the scrap, and the louder he got, the more annoyed Geoffrey became. Careful, please. Sorry. But the hours passed, and Jack was still slamming down the scrap into the trucks. No matter how many times Geoffrey told him to be careful, Jack would always say, sorry, and promptly start trying again. Oops. Enough! Snapped Geoffrey. I just had it with your rambunctious behaviour today, you silly front loader. You should be ashamed of yourself. All day you've been trying to make the loudest sound with the scrap, and you end up hurting my tender because of it. And even though you kept on saying sorry, you persisted with being silly and not sticking to your word. Now get out of my sight! Wait, Jack, don't go! No, he's right. See you back at the yards, Oliver. Why did you shout at him? You saw what he did all day, didn't you? You should have done something about it. Yes, I should have. But it doesn't justify you shouting at him and telling him to go away. I've learned to be patient with him until he gives out with his little game. I once lost my temper with the other machines when they were brand new and boisterous ones too. But I grew up and learned to be patient instead of shouting at them, because they only learned to be scared of you and would end up hating you for it. Maybe you need to work on that temper of yours. Now without Jack, I have to sort out the scrap and load it too. Now you get going. Your trucks are full. Oliver made his way to the scrap, while Geoffrey puffed away. As he was halfway towards the junction, Geoffrey began to think of Oliver's words and started to feel sad. I tried my best, but every time something bad happens to me, I just lose it. Just like before with the trucks. Sure, it got to the staying line, but like Oliver said, they become scared of you and hateful because of it. I really should work on this temper of mine. I should have kept to my word instead of being silly. But I don't see why Geoffrey should have yelled at me. Jack! Jack! Jack, please, I'm sorry for shouting at you earlier. Jack just ignored him, but Geoffrey kept going on and on. I am sorry, I tried very hard since leaving work with the ROD to not get angry. Please, Jack, I'm sorry that I upset you. But try as he might, Jack wouldn't hear him out. As Jack neared the bridge, he heard a whistle and saw that Geoffrey wasn't looking. Look out! Cried Jack. Geoffrey broke out of his trance and saw Hero coming past him. He braked hard just in time. But his momentum caused the train to bump and scrap spilt all over the tracks. Oh, no, groaned Geoffrey. Soon after, Jack arrived. Are you alright? I'm fine, Jack. But some of my scraps spilt onto the tracks. Driver has gone to warn the signalman. Don't worry, I'll pick them up for you. You know, that was a mighty bang with that scrap. It was almost as loud as what I did back at the top station. Then Geoffrey cracked a smile and laughed, and Jack did the same. When the scrap was loaded back into the trucks, Geoffrey said, "Thank you, Jack, and I'm sorry for shouting at you earlier." "That's all right," smiled Jack. "And I'm sorry for not sticking to my apologies when I was loading your trucks." "It's all good, mate. Now, I think Oliver needs some help at the top station with more scrap." "All right," said Jack happily, as he raced away back to the station yard. Geoffrey chuckled, and he went on his way to the junction. The day was nearing completion, and before Geoffrey left for the junction with his last train for the day, Jack and Oliver came to see him off. Jack was glad that he and Geoffrey were now good friends despite their faults. Geoffrey was as well, and he promised to them that he would work on his temper. But there was one thing lingering on Jack's mind. "You know, when you said to me that you work for the ROD, what is that?" "The Railway Operating Division. I helped with the French Army during the First World War. I was a bit hard on everyone there, shouting out orders, calling them out for misbehaving or for negligence, even though they didn't mean it. They called me the Tempremental engine. After the war, nobody wanted to talk to me, and they would tease me whenever I asked for something. That's why after I moved to Australia, I decided to start anew and try to make friends of my new railway with this carefree attitude. Luckily I have done, and I still call them friends to this day, but I guess old habits die hard. Well, got to go now. It's been great meeting you two. See you later. Ta! See you later, Geoffrey. Bye, Geoffrey.